Oh. There you go. All right, 7 o'clock on the dot.
Thank you, Ken.
You bet.
It is 7 o'clock and I'll call the Kickapoo Area School District Annual Meeting to order. Dispense with roll call. It's annual meeting and we'll jump there forward to affirmation of proof of publication of the agenda.
I, Kimberly Johnson, hereby certify that notice of the Kickapoo Area Schools Annual Meeting was posted in accordance to the state law. Kickapoo K-12 School Building on 10/15, Citizens First Bank in Viola on 10/15, and Epitaph News on 10/16 and 10/23.
Thank you, Kim. We need somebody to bravely step forward and be appointed as the secretary for tonight's meeting.
I'll make a motion that Marla be our secretary for the annual meeting. I'll second that.
Motion by Earl, second by Janet, and I think we vote before anybody else gets any crazy ideas. All in favor? Aye,
We should note everybody votes. This is.
Yep.
that's right. Then we have to elect a temporary chairman for the meeting.
Nominate Scott Walter.
Motion by Janet, second by Isaac. Naming Scott Walters chairman for tonight's meeting. We else, okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next up, reading of the annual meeting minutes from 2024. Typically read by our clerk, Rich James. But often that is dispensed with. If anybody would like to make a motion.
Make a motion to reading of the last year's minutes.
I'll second it.
Motion by Earl, second by Bo to dispense with reading of the minutes. I will point out for folks attending, they are in the packet, so if you'd like to look through them, feel free. So a motion to dispense with reading of last year's annual meeting minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Then we move on to reading of the treasurer's report by our treasurer, Earl Wallace.
24-25 general revenue. Fund revenue. $8,017,910.72. The 25-26 budgeted revenue is $8,303,239. An increase of $345,328.28 or 4.31%. The 24-25 general fund expenditures was $8,002,290.10. The 25-26 budgeted expenditures is $8,363,239. $8,363,239, increase of $360,948 or 4.51%. The district has the following debt schedule for the 25-26 fiscal year. Payment on the 2015 energy efficiency bonds, Fund 38, $444,500. Payment on the 2021 pool referendum, Fund 39, $162,065 for a total $606,565. District will be filing for short-term borrowing authority for the 25-26 fiscal year. The district did not do any short-term borrowing in 24-25 fiscal year, and there is currently no outstanding balance. The tax levy is based on the revenue cap, which changes according to the September enrollment, equalization aid, and the equalized valuation, among other variables. The 24-25 total tax levy was $2,532,029. The 25-26 proposed tax levy is $3,272,963, or an increase is $740,934 or 29.26%. The general aid is certified by the Department of Public Instruction on October 15th each year. Equalized valuation is certified each October by the Department of Revenue. The 24-25 general aid was $3,268,101. The equalized value was $398,492.31. The 25-26 general aid is $2,921,504, which is a decrease of $346,597, 10.61%. The equalized value is $446,609, $1,307, an increase of $47,617,076 or 11.93%.
Thank you, Earl. Any thoughts, discussion on the treasurer's report? If not, anybody want to make a motion to approve treasurer's report?
Motion to approve the treasurer's report.
I'll jump in and second it. So motion by Isaac, second by Scott to approve. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Treasurer's report is approved. Next up, presentation of the 25-26 budget by the administration.
So I'd like to introduce to you Elise Mern, and she comes to us with a background in public finance, and she's associated with our Baird, who works with us on our budget. So this is Elise, and she will be walking through some of the different components of this budget with me, with Allison Sandwick on maternity leave, and me just kind of resuming from my accident absence. Elise has agreed that she could come and offer her expertise and answer any questions should we have regarding the budget. So I will go ahead and start actually with our September pupil count that's in the handout. And we have a nice graph here. The very top line are what's referred to as our in seats. And this is the head count, the actual number of students physically attending Kickapoo schools. This number is taken on the third Friday in September and again in January, and it includes all students in seats on that day, regardless of where their funding is coming from, whether they are resident or opened enrolled. This number helps us plan for classrooms, teachers, and supplies. The next line that we have there is our blue line, which is our membership. And membership is basically that state funding term used to calculate aid and revenue limits. It's based on resident pupils for whom the district is financially responsible, whether they are physically attending here or not. This number includes Kickapoo residents attending our schools, attending elsewhere through open enrollment or in certain placements. It excludes non-resident students who open enroll into Kickapoo because the state counts them under their home district. Membership is averaged across 3 count periods, September, January, and the summer school FTE, to kind of smooth that year-to-year swings. And then we have in the red line, which is our FTE, and that means our full-time equivalent. A full day student counts as 1 FTE. Our half day or 4K or any early childhood students might be counted in our district as a 0.6. And DPI uses these FTE values to ensure that funding reflects the amount of instructional time required. or provided. So that kind of sums up our student pupil count. And this graph actually shows kind of a historical view of what that pupil count has looked like. Then I think unless there are any pictures questions, I'll move on to the next page, which is the open enrollment versus the open enrollment out. And here we see that blue line that's showing a really nice increase in number, as those are students who are open enrolled in to the district. And then that red line there shows students who are open enrolled out, who are choosing other avenues of education or other districts. So we have a healthy open enrolled in population, which we are very proud of. So this here is actually not just a financial measure, but also a reflection of the community confidence and the experience we provide here for our students. So that sums up kind of those two documents concerning enrollment and pupil counts. The next page, which is the proposed tax levy, I think Elise was going to go over this document.
Yes. Would you like me to share first? Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Should I share my screen? I see everybody has the packet, but I don't usually like it when my head is on a gigantic screen in a district library. So I'll just share
Yeah, you go ahead.
the floating head. Let's see. Okay. All right. So I'm going to share about the 25-26 proposed tax levy that is being motioned on this evening. And again, my name is Elise Mern. I'm from Baird Public Finance, and congratulations to Allison. Certainly a big day that her baby came, the last day that the state variable comes in for school budgets. So that's really exciting. So I can provide the statewide context. So if you guys have any questions, and then I told also Kim, if you guys have questions that we can't answer, we'll certainly try to do our research and get an answer if we need to. So the total school-based tax levy is broken up into a few different levies in the school district of Kickapoo. So on the slide or page 10, you'll see the levy. The first one is the general fund levy, Fund 10. The second one, B, is Fund 38, non-referendum approved debt. The third you see is Fund 39, referendum debt service levy. And then two other levies that the school district of Kickapoo does not utilize, all added together to make up the total school-based tax levy. A and B are dictated by the revenue limit formula, which is the formula provided by the state of Wisconsin to determine how much revenue a school district can raise through local taxes and state aid. So those two values together are our revenue limit. And then line C is referendum approved debt service. That's outside of the revenue limit, and that can only go towards repaying principal and interest on outstanding loans. So all of those added together are Kickapoo's total school-based tax levy for the year, $3,272,963, which then that levy divided by the total equalized value times 1,000 gives us our mill rate, which is how school districts across the state compare to their levy based on their valuation. So that equalized value really represents the fair market value within the district. We use equalized value because it's calculated on an annual basis. And we do not use assessed value because those happen more sporadically and vary from municipality to municipality. So the next box kind of shows the district's historical mill rate and levy over time. Noticeably, 24-25 and 25-26 do show increases. The district was planning certainly on those as it relates to the recurring referendum that's kind of getting calculated in that levy. And then exacerbated this year is the loss in state equalization aid, which provides property tax relief for school districts. So the last 2 years largely marked by tax increases as a result of a past recurring referendum. And then that bottom section, the school property tax by municipality, helps us to see the municipalities and which portion of that levy they will see as a result of what percent of the whole they make up of the total school district. So in 23-24, these municipalities were distributing $1.9 million. And then in 24-25, it was 2.5. And then 25-26 is 3.2. So those, you can see the percent changes on the right-hand side, but that helps to represent the increase in levy that each of those municipalities will see. Page 11 is a historical look at the valuation percent change and then the total levy over time. So this is quite the historical look back. I love that you guys have this amount of history because it really allows you to see that, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you've nearly quadrupled in, equalized value. And that levy has also grown. So that's an interesting history to kind of see where the district has been. And then the bottom section shows the equalized property values by municipality as well. So where the previous page was going levy by municipality, this page is showing equalized value by municipality, which kind of allows you to see which municipalities are growing. If the total school district grew at a rate of 11, almost 12%, I'm looking at that percent change column in the bottom right-hand corner. The total school district property value grew by about 12%. Then you can see which municipalities saw above or below average growth within the district. Okay. Kim is going to speak to Fund 80 and how those dollars are being allocated in this year's budget.
Right, so on page 12, we start out at the top here with the 24-25 beginning fund balance, which is that $9,577.56. That same year, the pool revenue in Fund 80 was a $14,948. We supply the trap team with $1,000. There are purchase services right around the $300. We pay for the pool supervisor, $4,589.87. And then our summer programs, that aerobics instructors and the rest for $7,653, giving our total expenses $13,543.54. Ending that year, 24-25, with a fund balance of $10,982.02. For the 25-26 budget, our Fund 80 levy budgeted and anticipated revenue for the pool of $12,000. Summer program aerobics and refs right around that same $7,687. The pool supervisor, purchase services, dues and fees, and then again that trap club, bringing those total expenses $13,683, and anticipated Fund 80 fund balance for next June of 26, then of $9,299.02. Any question on our Fund 80 or that community services detail? If not, we'll go into the Griffin funds here. And the Griffin funds were established because of their strong belief in education and their desire to make a lasting impact on our Kickapoo community. Lee Griffin was a successful forward thinker. He was a man who valued the opportunities that education had provided him. So he and his wife, Helen, chose to give back to the school that had shaped their community and its future. So through their estate, they created funds that have supported the growth of our students in both mind and body, from our library and classrooms to our athletic fields and wellness initiatives. The Griffin legacy is not about replacing district funds or filling gaps. It's about enhancing opportunities for our kids. So these funds have allowed us to support students' scholarships and learning environments, improve facilities like pool and athletic areas, maintain high-quality environments that reflect community pride. Their vision continues to remind us that education is both a personal investment and a community responsibility. And we can tell on this sheet here some of the different funds with the balance. We kind of have that historical view again with the balance of 630 during 630 of 14. And I won't go through all these numbers, but there we have the totals for the Griffin funds, revenue, expenses, and difference. And then we have the tech school scholarships dating back to 2015 into the 24-25 with the totals listed there as well under our revenue, expenses, and differences, giving us a grand total of Griffin funds of $1,078,000, $195, and $34. Any questions on our Griffin fund? If not, then we'll move into that next. I think in our packet, we have on page 14, the state aid versus the tax levy. But we kind of want to bring your attention more to page 15 where Elise, you were going to go over the revenue limit calculation, correct?
Yes. Yep. So this is a slide our team shares regularly. The revenue limit is a calculation that we pay very close attention to because it is the largest source of operating revenue that a district can raise through the sources of local tax levy and state equalization aid. So the top line you see on the slide represents the district's total revenue limit with all exemptions. So in 24-25 and 25-26, that notably includes the recurring referendum. And then the red line represents the amount of aid that the school district of Kickapoo receives from the state in order to essentially provide property tax relief. So this is a state dictated formula based on property wealth per member, and it essentially identifies who is covering what portions of the revenue limit formula. So in 25-26, Kickapoo's revenue limit was roughly 6 million. And then the state says, okay, well, of that 6 million, state of Wisconsin will contribute 2.9. And then the local taxpayer will then cover the balance. And that's that, revenue, the basis of that revenue limit levy. So noticeably in Kickapoo, that has gone down over the last 3 years. So I mentioned that the levy, if you see that levy increase of 30% in this year, some of it is that new authority coming from the recurring referendum. And then another part of it is the fact that the district is losing almost $300,000 in state equalization aid to help offset taxes. So it's how the formula works. I mentioned it's property wealth per member compared to the rest of the state. So if Kickapoo is growing at a rate of 12% and the rest of the state average is growing around 8%, then in the eyes of the formula, Kickapoo is more property wealthy per student. And as a result, the local tax base will incur more of that revenue limit authority. So this kind of shows how over time that has shifted.
So if I can interrupt, this is Janet Mathis, I'm just here. The decrease then, when you say the number of students, that's our population of our students, right? That's what, I forgot what the term was on the other chart.
Membership.
Membership, that's membership. And that we're property wealthy, that's the equalized value,
Correct.
correct? So equalized value went up, we knew that, more than the state average. And our membership went down, which is why it makes us look wealthy.
That is correct. You said it perfectly.
All right. Make sure.
And in the eyes of the formula, previously Kickapoo saw a greater portion in 21-22. So it really depends on where the district falls relative to the rest of the state and some of those statewide trends. So previously that was not the case, but now with that equalized value growing, the membership going down, as you noted, Janet, that kind of exacerbates the issue. And so it doesn't.
Lost you.
It's frozen.
That's okay. The resident district will tax for that voucher amount and then transit those dollars back to the state at the end of the year. So effectively it comes on the district's revenue limit as an exemption. And then the district collects it in the form of taxes. And then at the end of the year, it is transited back to the state. So the public school district is really just a pass-through. It does not have a budget impact, but it does have a tax impact. So in 25-26, that impact on the revenue limit was $83,621. Any questions?
That based on last year's numbers though, because we don't know what that is for this year yet either, do we? Or do
We
they
do.
September counts there too?
This is the count, yeah.
Yes, we get that number as of October 15th as well.
Okay.
And yep, so that one's pretty much set in stone for the year.
Never get it. Good. We collect it from.
Okay, in moving on to slide 18, this pie chart represents the district's general fund revenues by source. So the two biggest slices of the pie are going to be that state and local, and that's largely because that's where the revenue limit gets accounted for. The next largest slice is going to be that inter-district revenue, which is primarily open enrollment in revenue. As Kim shared earlier, Kickapoo is net open enroll in winter, which is really, as Kim mentioned, it's a testament to the great things going on in Kickapoo, but also it's a boon to the budget this year because the 25-27 biennial budget increased the per pupil dollars that are coming for open enrollment students. So now in Kickapoo, that's roughly 1.3 million. And then the smaller but still very important slice of the pie is that federal revenue. So things like Title I, Title II, Title IV, and those represent a good chunk of the district's budget as well. The next page is the district's expenditures by object. So object is what I consider the easiest terminology to understand. You can see things like salaries, benefits, etc. When we approve the budget, it's on a 2-digit function basis, and those terms aren't as straightforward. So I really like that Allison and the district pulled this together. This is a great visual representation of the budget. So you can see that the majority of the, 64% of the district's operating expenses really just simply go towards people, paying the staff. Some programming for students is also in this purchased services bucket, this 1.4 million. Sometimes when districts can't hire for certain positions, they will pay for an individual to kind of come, not be fully on staff, but then pay for those services. And then the next largest piece of the pie is going to be the operating transfers out, which is really the transfer from the general fund to balance the special education fund on an annual basis. Some of these smaller items, represent less than 10% of the total expenditure budget, but non-capital objects, things like supplies, apparel, sometimes technology, capital objects, and then the district insurances, so things like property, liability, and workers' comp. And next, okay, I just went all the way around the circle. The next couple of slides, that's the fun stuff. This is the budget line by line. And so I prepared a little bit of a pared down version of this to really just kind of speak to the high points of the budget. Really the significant buckets. Okay, so the buckets that we just explored and kind of breaking out in which line items those budget items live. So I'm just gonna pop my screen over here and then do this. Okay, so in your packets, you've got the district budget by 2-digit source and 2-digit function. And so this first section here is going to be like the top half of the Fund 10 revenues, the top half of the Fund 10 revenue budget. So the first column is the district's 23-24 audited final activity. The next column is 24-25 unaudited. Those numbers are due to the DPI by December 15th. So they're still unaudited as of today. And then the final column is 25-26, and that is the district's budget for approval this evening. So row 210 represents that taxpayer portion of the revenue limit. So that number, as you can see, is going up this year significantly. Part of it is because of the $325 per pupil revenue limit authority that was granted via the biennial budget. Some of it is also as a result of the district's recurring referendum. Some of it is also as a result of the tax burden shifting more towards the local constituents and away from the state. So it's kind of a combination of those three factors. The next line that's notable is the 1.36 million that we mentioned related to open enrollment in revenue. So not only did Kickapoo's FTE increase coming into the district, but also the per pupil dollars that go towards open enrollment students increased as well. And then sources, 600 down to the end. Okay, so notably line 620, that's that state equalization aid line. So that's the state portion of the revenue limit. You can see it decreasing from last year to this year as a result of what I described, that property wealth per member. Also worth noting is that the 25-27 biennial budget did not provide increases to this allocation statewide. So all across the state, we've seen school districts, 70% of school districts statewide have seen a decrease in their state equalization aid. So it's not necessarily unique to Kickapoo that Kickapoo is losing aid because the biennial budget did not provide increases to this specific bucket. So that's worth noting as well. The 700s represent our federal sources. So they are an important part of the district's budget. The largest one is the 750. That's going to be Title I. And then the 730 is going to be your smaller titles. One of the noticeable reasons why it's dropping for the current year is that the district did spend all of its ESSER or COVID relief dollars. So that is done completely. And then as the treasurer noted at the top of the meeting, overall total Fund 10 revenues are up roughly $360,000. Any questions on the Fund 10 revenues?
Did you just say it increased by 300 and some $1,000?
The district's total revenues, yes.
Okay. But we had a recurring referendum, and that includes the money for the recurring referendum.
Yes.
Okay, and that was 400,000. So
yes.
Then the other part would have been the loss of the state funding. I mean,
Yeah, so
it should have gone up 400,000 had we stayed even, right?
Yep, that's a good thought. I'm assuming that since we get 400,000 extra in the recurring referendum, we should see 400,000 over like year over year.
Right.
What kind of exacerbates that, or why that math doesn't exactly tie out, is because we're losing some of this federal revenue that's going down by about 200 some here. We're losing some from the state as well. Some of these per pupil aids that go down when enrollment goes down. So it's not exactly 400,000 once it's all kind of dust has settled.
Thank you.
So for those who prefer pictures over tables and numbers, this is a visual representation of the district's revenues. We had the pie chart a few slides ago, and this is just a historical look. You can see how the state portion of these bars has shrunk in 25-26. So the state equalization aid is the lighter blue portion, while the purple portion represents the property tax piece.
This is an additional one that she brought. It's kind of in the Baird. Yeah. So
sorry. I can share this afterwards. I can absolutely share this afterwards as well.
Yeah.
I forgot to send this to you, Kim. Just extra credit. The other large bar is going to be the open enrollment bar. You're going to see that one kind of increasing as well. Notably, that pandemic, revenue, COVID revenue is gone. So just a visual representation of what the numbers on the budget are showing. Next is expenditures. So as I mentioned, we adopt the budget on a 2-digit function level basis, and sometimes it's hard to know exactly what goes into those buckets. So the 1100s are those are instruction. So think about what kind of goes towards directly educating students in classrooms on a daily basis. Then that next support sources really goes towards kind of the wheels that are turning in the background in order to ensure that the school district continues kind of keeping the lights on, keeping the buses running, and some of those non-direct instruction positions as well. And then the non-program transactions, transfers between funds, our open enroll out payment, our voucher payment, that those expenditures live in these line items. And then a visual representation of those numbers, kind of sliced and diced into slightly different buckets, is just seeing that the majority of our expenses go towards staffing. And then our transfer into Fund 27 to balance the special education fund. And then some of those smaller items are, as we mentioned, those non-capital, capital objects, open enrollment, etc. Next is Fund 27, Special Education Fund. The half of the district's Fund 27 revenue comes from the general fund in order to balance it effectively. The cost of educating special education students per pupil is more based on state mandated requirements. The state does not reimburse 100% of those costs. And so as a result, the general fund essentially balances the special education fund. So that reimbursement from the state this year, written into the biennial budget, was 42%. However, that 42% is based on some certain allocation, which means they've earmarked a pot of money. But if some districts are drawing out of that pot more than others, then they need to prorate the reimbursement rate. So Allison did an awesome job. I was able to tie out exactly to the assumption that she used in the budget for the reimbursement rate. And the district is using 39% as opposed to the full 42%, which is conservative and also what we are seeing a lot statewide. We're seeing a lot of districts budgeting that reimbursement lower because the pot of money is a set pot of money. So that could certainly change. It could come in better than that. But any questions on that piece? Okay. Next is the Fund 27 expenditures. So as I mentioned, a lot of our special education expenditures are driven by state mandated requirements. And so the district typically must provide the services to serve the student needs based on the student population that you have. This year, special education fund is seeing a 6.7% increase. Okay, just a few more funds, a few more slides, I promise. Lots of numbers. So the next funds that we're going to be looking at are Funds 38 and Fund 39. 38 is within the revenue limit, 39 is outside of the revenue limit. And essentially these funds are strictly go towards paying down debt service, principal and interest. So the district will levy for those dollars and then, pay the principal and interest when it's due as is dictated by the loan.
Can I go back and ask a question on special ed? Still staring at that.
Yes.
If I'm reading this right, it looks like the total revenue in the budget for next year is 780,000 about. And make sure I'm not skipping something. If I'm reading it right, the total expenses and everything is 1.4 million. So right off the top, that means we've got 600,000 that we've got to figure on taking out of the general fund to make that balance, or did I miss something there?
No, it's the seven, you see correctly, the 780, that represents the transfer. The total
Okay,
is at the bottom there.
but that is, I guess works out the same way anyway, maybe by coincidence, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I was
yeah.
rounding off, yeah.
Well, it's roughly half of the district's Fund 27 revenue comes from the transfer. So yeah, that is.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
And if it helps you, Janet, last year's transfer is about 850,000, so it's
Yeah.
a little less.
Yep.
Because of the.
Significantly up.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's,
yeah,
as far as we can see now, but I don't know. if we- Yeah.
right, right.
Jump
It
last
might,
year. It
yeah.
looks like it might be even this year. We'll see.
Yes, again, Allison did a fantastic job of balancing the budget. You can see because it has a zero ending fund balance, revenues equal expenditures. Sometimes when we work with districts on their budgets, they don't have that fund balance. Just speaks to how thorough Allison is. Thank you for the question. So after Fund 38 and Fund 39, we get to talk about the capital projects funds. Of these, Kickapoo only utilizes Fund 46 in 25-26. And that's really the kind of long-term capital planning and improvement. And it looks like at this point, there's, $500,000 sitting in fund balance. The 10,000 is going to be interest revenue. And I'm sure there will be projects that pop up throughout the year that the district can explore how to tackle or use Fund 46. Other districts use Fund 46, at the end of the fiscal year, if the budget performed better than expected, the district can make a transfer into Fund 46 in order to kind of help plan for unanticipated future expense needs. But as of right now, it looks like really we're just planning on interest revenue in that fund. And then the last two are related to food service and so that's Fund 50, and then the Community Service Fund, which is Fund 80. Kim spoke about Fund 80 a few pages ago, so I won't describe that one, but Fund 50, our revenues largely come from either charging for school lunch or any food needs at the district, and then expenses are typically salaries, benefits, and then truly the cost of goods, unless you need to do something like replace a fridge or a walk-in cooler or a stove or a drain. Those types of things can come up during the year. So the general fund can sometimes balance the food service fund if need be as well. So I think that's it as it relates to kind of the total budget. I also like to provide a little bit of like a budget in words. I'm sure Kim and Allison would have more words than stuck out to me, but when I was reviewing the district's budget, just as Kim mentioned, I work with, over 100 school districts statewide, and these were kind of the things that I saw. So on the one hand, tax increases are likely, and that was kind of known and communicated as a part of the recurring referendum. The biennial budget did not provide additional property tax relief in the recent biennial budget, so that's going to compound that. The district is, because staffing makes up such a large percentage of the district's operating expenses, that is going to be a focus of the district's budget. And then the special education reimbursement, even though we're estimating 39% locally, it could come in better, and it absolutely provided necessary relief, not just in Kickapoo, but for districts all across the state. So when it comes to advocacy, that's definitely one that resonates with districts statewide. It's not unique to any one district. So that was all I had prepared related to the budget. We kind of got through all of these pieces. And I don't always see this page in, because the district's annual meeting is in October, there were changes from when the community saw the budget last. Usually it's at the end of June or the beginning of, it has to be actually at the end of June. And so sometimes districts post this budget changes from the June to final. So I think that's great for fiscal transparency. I think this is a really good summary. I think more districts should probably do this. But this is just a statutory piece that the DPI includes to help show like what changed from when the original budget was approved to now. Okay, next page. Recognize this. I get to see these a lot. This is the school district's Fund 39 debt service. So this is relating to the 2015 bond issuance and shows the amount of principal and interest that the district still has outstanding. Kind of get into the tail end of the maturities for the loan. Be paid off in the next 3 years. And then this next page represents the district's Fund 38 loan. I think, Kim, you mentioned this is for the pool.
Yes, that was the pool debt.
Okay. And next is the, the fun stuff, the resolutions. So I will stop sharing and let you take over from here.
Thank you very much, Elise. Very thorough. Before you depart though, Elise, any other questions on the budget?
Can the public ask questions? Sure. Okay. So 64% of the 8,363,239 expense budget is salary and benefits. What are you budgeting as for salary increases and benefits raises? I didn't see that in this report. Is it still 6% salary increase?
No,
No, I think the average was right about what CPI was.
it was CPI, yeah.
It's something.
Or 8
What is it? CPI is 3.01.
Yeah, it's just under 3, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that budget was presented, what, 2 meetings ago?
Last meeting, maybe.
Yeah, so it would have been, the CPI from like the summer. It wouldn't have been from certain.
It was roughly.
So that includes also merit rate, for merit or promotions and the 3% you're budgeting, or is that just the cost of living adjustment?
That basically cost of living, the
Is there
CPI.
other money adjusted for salaries for increases above that 3%? No? Okay. So that's in line with what people are getting, like on fixed incomes with Social Security, they're gonna get a 2.8% raise. CPI is about 3%, so you guys are in line with that, so that's good.
Mhm.
The increase in the tax levy last year was 26.83%. This year is 28.64%. Okay. When CPI is 3% and people are getting 3% raises on like Social Security, this is a big issue. Okay. And I don't know how sustainable it is. I know we got 2 more years of this to go. But when I talk to people, especially people that are retired, this is material on their property taxes. On top of that, we're getting reevaluations like we had in the town of Kickapoo, town of Liberty, where we're seeing 2x increases on valuations on top of, which is going to be about 100% increase on property tax revenue due to the levy. So I don't know what else to say. I know we talked about it before, but
I know, and I think we're frustrated as well, and it's really that state funding model. We haven't, as a district, we've kept our mission, we've kept the focus on student, and like the document that Elise had demonstrated, the decrease in what the state is allocating, that they, is hurting our community, the increase in the property valuations. We're looking like a property rich district. So I understand completely. We're kind of stuck because we're here as a district wanting to provide and do what we can for these students, and the funding model is,
In your state budget also, though, is looking at, so it's reducing the school funding, but they're also saying that property or taxpayers are going to get a reduction in their state taxes. So I think when you're looking at that, you have to kind of take that into consideration, right? If the state's going to reduce the amount that they're taxing you, and you're getting taxed more locally with your school.
that's a good point.
Restricting
Yeah.
it to,
I mean, they're putting it on the people directly, is essentially what they're saying. So instead of the state taking all the money and redistributing it, they're saying, we're not going to take it from you. Your school's going to take it from you directly.
yes, but I just read a national report last week that says the state of Wisconsin K-12 spending per pupil averages 16,744 per student, or it's ranked number 22 in the nation out of 50 states. Now, I don't know if that's state funding plus, levies and different things like that, but if I take our budget of 8.3 million divided by membership of 395, that comes to $21,172 per student we spent.
I think you have to divide it by the total students where.
Yeah, you have to divide it
So you
by
have to
total
use that
students
green
that
line at the
year.
top, which is the open enrolled in as well.
We get money from the other.
456 for the butts and seats.
So we're roughly in line then, I would say. The state funding is about $16,750. So I haven't done the math, but I bet if we took those numbers, we'd be roughly in line. Okay.
Mhm.
That's.
But what
chunk
is
of
our,
money.
what is our per student? Or what is the state per student? Yeah, what is? Because.
Well, it's a really good question, because is it as straightforward as taking our total expenditures divided by our head count? You have to keep in mind, in that expenditure line item are things like your open and roll out expense. It's things like you have to go balance your Fund 27. It's the voucher expense. All of those are included in the district's total bottom line.
They include the voucher part in there? Even though we never get that? Well, it's part of the taxes, yeah.
So that's where you kind of have to think about, how do we want to calculate this? And I really like the reference to the stat, because it makes us think, how is it calculated? Do we agree with the methodology? And then where do we fall compared to, this average that's been cited? So there's a few different ways that the DPI calculates this specific figure. There's educational cost per member. There's revenue per member. I typically refer to maximum revenue per member when thinking about school district spending. And in Kickapoo, I can share again. In Kickapoo, the maximum revenue per member this year is $12,630. So this is like when we think about revenue. I'm not sharing it. Share. What's that? Okay, so when we think about revenue limit revenue, like a district's ability to raise revenue per pupil, I usually refer to this 12,630 figure. But if we're talking about spending per pupil, I mean, do we include things like food service? Do we include things like debt service?
Yes.
Yeah.
Total expenditures divided by students equals expenditure per student. I think so. That'd be a cool chart. You know, I don't want to get into the weeds here, but I was trying to look at what the state average is and see how we as Kickapoo line up. And I'd have to look at the census again. I didn't know the three lines, what one to divide, but you would take the $8.3 million budget and divide it by whatever our student count is. And that would be, could be a chart in a future presentation to say, how are we trending versus state average? But the state average in Wisconsin for 2025 is 16,744. It's ranked number 22 out of 50 states. And for property tax burden, Wisconsin is ranked number 9 out of 50 states. So this discussion we're having is very material as far as burden. And this thing about property wealth, I don't quite understand that. I think that formula seems sort of weird because it really is income, really your ability to pay.
Right.
You know, you can have a lot
Right.
of property, for example, but you could be a retired farmer and you don't have,
No.
you're on Social Security, and their Social Security, when I was on the county board, I used to go to meal sites and talk to some widows and stuff. They live on very minimal incomes, and their kids were helping pay the property tax. But they're property rich and they have a rich with land and equipment and stuff like that. But their disposable income, if they're on a fixed income, is minimized. So,
The problem.
and that's a state issue.
Yes,
It's,
yeah.
State of Wisconsin issue goes beyond Kickapoo certainly, but those are my inputs and
Yep.
questions.
It's a very, so you might have gotten more than what you bargained for having a Baird teammate on the call, because I do have those state variables. We have an analytics tool that allows us to look at that spending. So I just pulled in CISA 3. So Kickapoo and your neighboring districts, I filtered out like Platteville because they kind of skew the data a little bit. They're bigger. But Kickapoo is in the bottom third of CISA 3 for spending per pupil. And it's really close to what you had calculated and estimated. It's right around 17,956. So that's going to include the 8 million that you referenced from Fund 10 as well as Fund 27. So Fund 27 is an additional, $1.4 million.
So what's that total number? 17,000, you said?
17,956. Now this is 23-24 because the district is literally just approving the budget tonight. So we don't have it in the tool yet, but we will once the board has finally approved the budget. So
it'd be higher, more like 18 something probably.
I calculated 17,946 by taking the total expenses by the
Okay,
parts and seats of 466.
call it 18,000 roughly.
Yep.
Significant investment in our next generation of leaders, so.
great comments.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. Anybody else have any questions for Elise or thoughts on the budget? Hearing none, we're at the point where we'll entertain a motion to approve the budget.
Motion to approve the budget.
I'll second it.
Motion by Isaac, second by, I can't see behind.
Or
Burdette.
Burdette, yeah.
Burdette. Hey, Burdette. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have an approved budget. Thank you, everybody. Next up on the agenda, Well, first, thanks, Elise. You're still with us. I think you can probably go to bed now, but really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Have a good
Elise.
night.
Okay, as per normal with the annual meeting, we've got a short list of resolutions which I'll read. Then we'll need motions and seconds following each. A little preamble to begin with. State laws require that a number of resolutions be acted upon each year at the annual school district meeting, giving the Board of Education the necessary legal authority to operate the schools. The first resolution is regarding the tax levy. Be it resolved that there shall be levied upon the taxable property of the Kickapoo Area School District the sum of $2,672,323 for the purpose of defraying the operation and maintenance of the public schools. $438,575 for non-referendum debt service and $162,065 for referendum debt service for a total levy of $3,272,963 for the 2025-26 school year.
Moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Isaac, second by Earl. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? First resolution then passes. Second resolution regarding school board member salaries. Present salary is $1,200 for each board member, $1,500 for the board president, and $1,300 for the board clerk, with mileage to be set according to the IRS primary rate and a $25 fee for all committee meetings and extra board meetings as posted. The resolution, be it resolved by the electors of the Kickapoo Area School District, Vernon, Richland, and Crawford counties of Wisconsin, that the following salary be set for the members of the Board of Education. Anybody want to recommend an amount?
Make a motion that we keep the same numbers we had last year.
Motion by Janet, second by Earl, that we maintain the same board member salaries. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Be it further resolved that the board members be paid for their actual and necessary expenses when traveling or attending meetings outside the district in the performance of duties.
Make a motion to approve. I'll second it.
Motion by Earl, second by Bo, I think that was. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Third resolution related to temporary borrowing by the Board of Education. It is necessary to borrow funds to meet district expenses during the year because revenues such as state aid and local taxes are not received until later in the year or even the following year. Such loans for operating expenses are for a short-term basis and are repaid when the funds mentioned above are received. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Kickapoo Area School District, Vernon, Richland, and Crawford counties of Wisconsin be authorized to secure a temporary loan in accordance with the provisions of Section 67.12 of Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of meeting the immediate expenses of maintaining the schools of the district.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Tina.
Tina, figured it must be Tina. Motion by Tina, second by Isaac. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Fourth resolution related to the hot lunch, breakfast, and milk program. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Kickapoo Area School District is hereby directed to furnish hot lunches, breakfast, and milk to any and all students of the district at such places and times and at such cost as shall be set by said board, and the school board is hereby authorized to pay any deficiency which may result from said lunch, breakfast, and milk program.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Motion by Bo, second by Isaac. All in favor? Aye, opposed? Next resolution relates to legal proceedings. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Kickapoo Area School District is directed to provide for the prosecution or defense of any action or proceedings in which the district is interested.
That make that motion.
Motion by Janet, second by Earl. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the last resolution related to transportation. Be it resolved by the electors of the Kickapoo Area School District, A, that the district shall transport all students in the district to school who are required to be transported by the district under the laws of the state of Wisconsin and in the same manner as required by said law. B, that in addition, the board of said school district is authorized to transport in its discretion any students living less than 2 miles from the school in said school. C, that said board is hereby authorized to maintain and operate present transportation vehicles owned by the district, and said board is hereby further authorized to purchase or lease any additional transportation vehicles that they deem necessary or advisable for the district, to have and to place the same in operation. That this authority is a continuation of previous authority given the board. D, that said board in its discretion, if further authorized, and if it finds it advisable or necessary to furnish transportation for some students by parent contracts, that said board is also authorized to provide any such transportation by contract with private individuals or companies. E, that said board is hereby authorized within reason to expend whatever sums it deems necessary and advisable for above purposes, and to pay for the same from the general fund, except expenditures for the purchase of vehicles may be furnished by the board at its discretion by borrowing or by financing contracts. F, that the above authority to operate included the authority to purchase liability insurance on any and all of said vehicles in such amounts and or such coverage as the board deems necessary.
I'll second it.
Motion by Isaac, second by Bo. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That was the last resolution.
Motion to adjourn.
I didn't even ask for that yet.
I'll second it anyway.
Motion by Isaac, second by Janet to adjourn tonight's meeting. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody. All right. First up, roll call. Marla, please.
Bo Schrader,
Here.
Janet Mathis, here, Earl Wallace,
Here.
Isaac Wallace,
Here.
Scott Walter.
Here. Affirmation of proof of publication of the agenda. Deja vu. I guess that's you.
I hereby Kimberly Johnson hereby certify that notice of the Kickapoo Area Schools Annual Meeting was published accordance to state law.
Thank you, Kim. As always, a slot for audience to visitors. Do you have any visitors left?
Bonnie's back here. She's.
Oh, hey, Bonnie, you have anything for us?
I got nothing.
You got another.
I want to go home.
How about board members?
I was just gonna ask Kim if you heard anybody interested in the vacancy. I saw the sign coming in. It was really nice.
Yeah, we did put a couple posters up. I haven't heard anything. Have you guys heard anything that I haven't known about? No.
Yeah, ran right key.
Mhm. We've asked, but we've gotten no's.
Is it us?
You're such a fun group.
All right, we do have two items then on the action agenda. The first being the 2025-26 budget, which we just painstakingly reviewed. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion that we approve 25-26 budget. Both together,
No, it's
separate.
Motion by Earl, second by Isaac to approve the 25-26 budget. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Scott, excuse me, did you do the approved agenda? Did I miss it?
Oh, you did not miss it because I didn't do it.
I'll make a motion.
Let's step back.
Sounds good.
Let's just jump back. Second,
Second.
motion by Earl, second by Isaac to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor? Aye.
As we vote on budget, is Rich online?
He's not.
Okay, no. Just curious.
Okay, so we have an approved agenda. Thank you, Marla. And did you get the motions for the budget? So we'll jump back down. Second item on the action agenda, the 25-26 tax levy.
Make a motion to approve the tax levy.
Second.
Usually that motion, just so when they write it up, usually that motion includes the exact amount of the levy, you know, the debt service, I was looking back at the treasurer's report because we used to have those numbers there. It was easy to just read them off. That seemed so. But whatever, when you put it together, I mean, I'm sure we all understand what it is.
Good to have them in there.
If no one else does.
So we have a motion by Isaac. Bo, did you second? Bo seconds. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? One last motion.
Second.
Motion by Isaac, second by Janet. To adjourn, all in favor? Aye. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.